Welcome to this explainer. Okay, I want you to cast your mind back to the year 2020. You know, that year the entire world basically just stopped. Economies paused, businesses shuttered, and our daily lives came to a grinding halt. Yet, right in the middle of that unprecedented global pause, we witnessed a wealth explosion. Literally, one man's wealth completely defied all logic and gravity. So today, we're going to unpack the actual mechanics of extreme wealth and figure out exactly how this happened. $150 billion. Seriously, let that number sink in for a second. That is the staggering amount Elon Musk earned in a single year. Look, at the beginning of 2020, his net worth sat at $27 billion, which made him the 35th richest person in the world. Obviously, highly successful, for sure. But by January 2021, his net worth had skyrocketed to over $190 billion, rocketing him to the absolute top as the world's richest man. Now, you might be wondering, did he suddenly start working 10 times harder? The real mystery here is the effort behind that massive leap. You'd naturally assume that to make $150 billion in 12 months, a person would have to practically stop sleeping, right? But if we compare his routine from 2016 through 2019 to his routine in 2020, it shows that no extra or different effort was made. I mean, he's known to be a really hard worker, absolutely, but he didn't do anything radically different in 2020 than he did in previous years. Even if he had done absolutely nothing new that year, the chances of him becoming this extraordinarily rich were still incredibly high. So how is that even possible? Section 1. The secret of billionaire wealth. It's all about equity. When you and I think about making money, we usually think about putting in the work, getting a salary in return, and, slowly saving it in a bank account. But that is simply not how billionaires operate. Earning billions through a normal salary is mathematically near impossible. Instead, people like Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and Bill Gates hold equity. They own pieces of incredibly valuable companies. Their net worth isn't just sitting idle in a checking account. It is directly tied to the wildly fluctuating stock market. It's dictated entirely by public demand, and essentially how much the world values their companies on any given day. Which brings us to this absolutely wild number. A massive 720% surge in Tesla's stock price during the year 2020. This percentage is the true hidden engine of Musk's sudden and extreme wealth. It wasn't some giant year-end bonus check. It was the global market collectively deciding his company was suddenly worth profoundly more. To truly grasp the sheer scale of this growth, let's look back at Tesla's IPO, their initial public offering back in 2010. The price for a single share was a humble $17. Contrast that with January 14, 2021, where that exact same share was priced at $854. This unbelievable climb created a market capitalization of over $800 billion for Tesla. That valuation pushed the car manufacturer to become the fifth most valuable company in the entire world, going toe-to-toe with tech giants like Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and Google's Alphabet. And because Musk holds a 20% stake in Tesla, as the company soared, his net worth went right up with it. Section 2. Building the Musk Empire. So how did he even get the cash to play this billionaire game in the first place? To trace his rapid ascent, we actually have to start in South Africa. Musk taught himself to code and, remarkably, sold a computer game for $500 when he was just 12 years old. He moves to Canada in 1989. Fast forward to 1995, he gets his first major break by founding a telephone directory company called Zip2, which he ends up selling for a high price. Then, in 2000, he forms a financial service company that eventually becomes PayPal. By 2001, he's the CEO, and soon after, eBay acquires PayPal for a whopping $1.5 billion. At this point, Musk is already a dot-com millionaire. He takes that massive wealth and pivots hard to his true passions: the internet, renewable energy, and space. And that leads us to 2004, where he drops a $30 million investment into Tesla. Now, here's a crazy little micro-story that completely challenges what most people assume. Elon Musk did not actually found Tesla. Nope. The company was founded in 2003 by two individuals named Martin and Mark. Musk joined a year later as an investor with that $30 million, and he didn't even step into the role of CEO until 2008. Yet, this investment in a company he didn't even start is the exact vehicle that ultimately made him the wealthiest person on the planet. Section 3. Overvalued or trillionaire bound. On one side of the financial world, we have deep skepticism from traditional finance. In December 2020, JP Morgan basically came out and bluntly stated Tesla's shares are not only overvalued, but dramatically so. A lot of institutional experts believe the numbers just simply don't make sense. And interestingly enough, even Musk himself warned his own employees in May 2020 that the stock's price was quite high. He actually told them not to get their hopes up too much because share prices can just as easily fall. But then immediately juxtapose that skepticism with extreme optimism. You've got billionaire investors confidently stating that Tesla's stock can increase 3 times more. This side of the market is betting heavily on the future. As more developed countries push aggressively to reduce carbon emissions and phase out petrol vehicles, these investors believe Tesla is perfectly positioned to dominate a global, permanent shift to electric cars over the next decade. And if those optimistic investors are right, what if the stock really does multiply? Well, it leads to a genuinely wild possibility: $1 trillion. If Tesla's stock increases 5 times from its already massive valuation, Musk's net worth would balloon from the billions into the thousands of billions. I mean, we've all heard of millionaires and billionaires, but he could become the world's very first trillionaire. Mind-blowing, right?
Section 4. The cash-poor billionaire.
Okay, so here is the ultimate paradox of his financial situation. The guy is worth $190 billion, but 99% of that is entirely locked up in shares of Tesla and his space exploration company, SpaceX. That leaves a tiny 1%, or honestly even less, as liquid cash or easily accessible assets. Despite his astronomical net worth, he takes absolutely zero salary for being the CEO of Tesla and actively considers himself to be entirely cash poor. So you're probably thinking, why doesn't he just withdraw some of that cash? Cashing out shares sounds super simple in theory, but the reality is incredibly precarious. If Elon Musk suddenly decides to sell off massive amounts of his own shares to get cash, what do you think happens? The public and other investors immediately think he's lost faith in his own company. That triggers widespread panic, everyone rushes to sell, and the stock price absolutely crashes. That staggering wealth would literally cease to exist. He is the richest person in the world, but that money is not sitting in his pocket and he cannot just freely spend it. Section 5. The Interplanetary Philosophy. When the news finally broke that he had hit #1 on the richest list, his response revealed a completely unique mindset. He literally just tweeted, "Strange. Well, back to work." He really isn't interested in using his wealth for materialistic things like buying private islands or massive jets. He views money strictly as a financial tool to achieve massive goals. He's actually stated his intent is to use half of his wealth to help solve problems right here on Earth, and the other half to establish a human colony on Mars. This is to ensure the continuation of the species, just in case a catastrophic event, like, say, an asteroid, ever threatens Earth. But, as we've learned today, the stock market is relentlessly volatile, which kind of grounds us back in reality. Because extreme wealth is entirely tied to fluctuating share prices, it changes constantly. In fact, just recently, a very slight dip in Tesla's stock price was enough to shift the scales entirely, putting Jeff Bezos back on top at $182 billion, while Musk momentarily dipped to $179 billion. It is basically a continuous multi-billion-dollar tug-of-war. Which brings us right back to the core question of this entire explainer. Does a system where a single person can make $150 billion in one single year without drawing a single penny in a traditional salary truly make sense? It forces us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about how modern extreme wealth functions, how it's measured, and ultimately how incredibly fragile it can be. Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this fascinating data today, and I really hope it leaves you looking at the billionaires of the world in a completely different light.